Welcome back to another You-Centered podcast. Thanks for the great feedback we've been getting the last couple of weeks. We had the Dion twins on last week, and very well received on the different things that they talked about their own self-motivation. So this week I got a real special one. We've got our good friend Tyler Nelson, who's actually hit a few shots in this You-Centered gym over the years. Tyler is clearly one of the greatest to ever lace him up in the Merrimack Valley. And he's going to come in to talk about, we're going to talk about Ty's career and, his life growing up in hoops and family and et cetera, et cetera. But we're also going to talk about Ty's self-motivation, proving people wrong, basically the resiliency of keep grinding and things like that. So that'll be focused in it. So first of all, I want to thank Ty for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here, talk some basketball and life, and looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, Ty, anybody who knows basketball knows you or knows of you. Many of my followers are not necessarily diehard hoop fans. So why don't we give the little Ty Nelson bio, start off from a young guy up until now. Who is Tyler Nelson?
Yeah, so I grew up in Bradford, Massachusetts, just right around the corner from North End over here. Grew up playing basketball, golf, baseball, a bunch of different sports. Actually, I met Rick when I started playing AU basketball. I think it might have been, was it fifth grade with the New England Storm back in the old days when you were just getting it started. So yeah, met Rick through that, and my dad, went to Central Catholic High School, had a great basketball career there, played in the fall league, have known Rick all the way since, like I said, since probably fifth grade. Then went to Fairfield University from there on a basketball scholarship in Connecticut. Now I play professionally in the NBA G League.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I when I was thinking about preparation for this, I was trying to remember the first time I ever met you, and you might not even remember this, but you're 3 years younger than Michael. Obviously, you and Michael are tight, but we were playing in the OGLC gym up in Lawrence, right? And if anybody's ever been there, it's like this small gym, which is known more for their kitchen and their food than they are a gym. But I think it was Michael and George Niang was on the team, and Jimmy Z, and we were, a powerhouse fifth grade team, right? And in walks this team coached by Jeff Nelson, who I had gotten to know. And I see this little kid. You had to have been like in the third grade playing in this fifth grade division. And I immediately saw, wow, I don't know if I've ever seen a third grader have, the IQ and the ability, and your father was tough on you. And, you were playing with mostly younger kids, so we didn't have too much trouble with you that day. But that was not going to be the case as we went forward here. So that was kind of my first memory. You got to play for the famous Jeff Nelson. Obviously, you're a coach's kid, which in itself is tough at times. What was it like playing for your father throughout your whole youth years, and that was basically with Haverhill Travel? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a unique experience. Obviously, having a father who coached you all throughout your youth and, knows the game of basketball inside and out. And, obviously, as a father, you want the best for your son. And he was hard on me at times when I was younger, but I think, it kind of molded me into the work ethic that I have now. And, I really developed a love for the game, not just through him, coaching me and getting me into the game of basketball, but, just falling in love with basketball myself at a young age. And that's really all I wanted to do was, go play hoops. And I think, having a father that knew the game and could teach the game to me, I think it definitely helped me, my development ever since I, started playing in fourth and fifth grade competitively, and then always playing up, like you said, against older competition in the area. I think that was, a unique experience and something that, my dad as a coach, pushed me towards to play against better talent, and I think it paid off for me.
Yeah, and if people don't know, Jeff is a great basketball mind, great player in his own right when he was a kid, and obviously as a high school coach at a variety of stops, and presently now as an NBA scout for the Sixers. I met him when he was an NBA scout for Jerry Sloan and the Utah Jazz. But obviously Jeff knows basketball, and I believe he's one of the best shooting instructors, and we're going to talk about your skill as a shooter a little bit later. But so tell me a little bit about when you were a elementary school into your middle school career, you played with your father. Obviously, it can be tough at times and it can be great at times. Talk a little bit about, because you guys have a great relationship. That's one of the things I've always kind of saw with you, and I pride that in having that with my own Michael. But what were the rides home after games? What were the one-on-one instruction stuff? And how did it build your relationship with your dad during that period of time?
Yeah, definitely. My dad, ever since I was, like I said, in fourth grade and started playing competitive sports, he had always been my coach, no matter what sport it was, whether it was basketball, baseball, anything. So as a coach's son and, your dad being your coach, he's always, probably going to be a little bit harder than you than he is to the other kids, especially, in my case when I was always one of the better players on my team. There was definitely moments where it was tough as a young kid. You just kind of want to have fun out there, but, at the same time, you want to get better. And as your dad is a coach, he expects a lot from you and being one of the better players. So it had its up and downs, but I think the way my dad pushed me was more of a, if you want to be good at this is how you're going to have to go about your business, and this is what you're going to have to do. You can't just, go out there and go through the motions. So, yeah, a lot of car rides home, maybe some few tears here and there, but at the end of the day, like you said, good relationship, and, I'm glad my dad got to coach me because I do really think it definitely helped me.
Yeah, without a doubt. A special relationship between you and your father, for sure. All right, so take us up to that 8th grade. You live in Bradford, and for people who don't know, Bradford's a section of Haverhill. So the normal progression, first, some people in Haverhill would go directly to Haverhill High. I think Haverhill High, which had been experiencing, not the greatest years, I think they were hoping for you to come in. You made a decision to go to league rival Central Catholic, a private Catholic school in Lawrence. Tell me about that decision, and what was the final decision to go play for Central Catholic and Ricky Nault?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was in 8th grade, obviously, I was probably one of the best players in the area. And, Haverhill High basketball wasn't the greatest team in the league, but, they were respectable. They had some great players. And at the time, Noah Vonleh was there.
Yeah, Noah was playing for them.
So, they had some recognition. But at the time, Central Catholic was the best basketball team in the state, and they're still in the top, 10 every year pretty much. But at that point, it was Jimmy Zenovich, Carson DeRozers the year before I even got there. But like I said, they were a powerhouse, and I had a relationship with the Zenoviches through AAU, I think,
Sure.
playing New England Storm and stuff. So I think it wasn't forced upon me by my parents. They kind of let me decide, but, just being the competitive basketball player that I was, I knew that, why would I not go to Central Catholic and, have a chance to play for the state title every year and, be able to play in front of packed gyms every day. And I think that was something that stood out to me. It was never, forced upon me, but obviously going to Central was, a great opportunity for me, not just, the school itself, but basketball, playing for Ricky Nault and, the way he prepared us and the career I had there. And, lucky being able to play varsity as a freshman was a huge experience for me. And, I loved my time at Central.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think people know, you were a 3-sport athlete as you came into Central Catholic.
Yep.
And your father was a big proponent of multi-sports and not just focusing on one. And I don't think people know how talented of a golfer you are. And I know it's something you will do for the rest of your life. But great golf. But you were also a baseball player at
Correct.
one point in time. And at some point, my memory might be a little bit full again. I don't know if it was after freshman or sophomore year. You gave up baseball. How come?
Yeah, so it was my sophomore year. So basically, my freshman year, I played baseball, but like baseball was in the spring, and that's the same time as AAU season. So I ran into some problems where, it was the spring I was playing, baseball at Central, but at the same time I was playing BABC competitively, and, every weekend we were, gone Friday through Sunday playing basketball. So I had some situations where it was like, I don't know what I want to do my freshman year. Do I want to go to this AAU tournament? But I can't, leave this baseball game, this team that I'm committed to. So I ended up sticking out with baseball my freshman year and missed a little bit of, freshman AAU basketball. And then going to my sophomore year, I kind of realized it had to be one or the other. And I think the opportunity to play for BABC, which, George played for, is arguably, I think, the best AAU program in the area. That was just too good of an opportunity to pass up on. So I just went full ahead with AAU and just left baseball behind.
Yeah, I mean, I know it was a tough decision for you and your
Yeah.
father. Your father's a big baseball guy too, but and you just bring up. So you started out with us, the New England Storm, and
Yep.
I'm always very realistic. At some point in time, the best players for us needed to move on to the Premier program, and obviously George was our 1st, but he wasn't our last. That actually left the Storm and go play for BABC, and you followed that track too.
Yep.
And my relationship with Leo and BABC. I think he's the godfather of grassroots hoops. I think he's a great man, and obviously I enjoy my relationship with him. But also Leo's a taskmaster. He's tough, and he gets the best out of kids, and he obviously gets you great exposure. So you made the decision to go BABC. Talk a little bit about your experience with your few years with BABC.
Yeah, so BABC was, a great experience. Obviously, just from the exposure standpoint, everyone that plays AAU basketball, the end goal is to get recruited, and whether that be Division III, Division II, or Division I. And when I went to go play for BABC, it was a lot of Boston-based kids and a lot of kids that had a lot of recognition and were really good players at the time. We only had a roster of like 7 or 8 guys, so it was really you needed to be there, you needed to play, you expected a lot from you. And I remember it was like my sophomore year, we were playing an AAU tournament, and if I remember correctly, the guys on the floor with me were like Jalen Brantley, who went and played on at Maryland,
Yeah.
Wayne Selden, who went on to Kansas, and then Bonzi Colson, who played at Notre Dame. Like, I think everyone on my BABC team from my sophomore all the way until we graduated, I think everyone got a Division I scholarship, maybe besides 1 or 2 guys that filled in here or there that weren't there the whole time. So just from the exposure standpoint, I mean, like you said, Leo's the godfather of AAU. I mean, he's been doing it for 30 plus years, so he knows every coach. Every coach respects him. So if you play for him and you play hard and do what he asks for, at the end of the day, I think you're going to have an opportunity to play college basketball. So the BABC experience was perfect for a guy like me.
Yeah, and they are the standard marker, and obviously, Leo, the amount of people he's had, not just get Division I scholarships, because most of them end up, playing Division I, but how many have actually made it to the league, and how many are in the league right now? Just watching Terrence Mann and,
Yep.
Obviously George and the rest of the crew, just unbelievable experience. So your high school career in the Merrimack Valley was phenomenal. I got to watch it up front and close. Christmas tournament, league titles, wonderful home and away games at Andover, which people would line up for hours in advance to try to get in there and watch those games. You get named Mass Gatorade Player of the Year, ESPN Boston Player of the Year. When you look back at it right now, how do you actually reflect on your 4 years at Central Catholic?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, my 4 years at Central Catholic were, amazing. Not from just the school standpoint, but just from basketball, being number 1 or number 2 in the state and, making it all the way to the semifinals just about every year. And then my senior year, making it to the state championship and falling a little bit short. But like you said, just the opportunity to play in front of packed gyms, great competition every night, and the recognition of playing at Central. I think that really helped me a lot. I had a great relationship with my coach there. I still talk to him, Rick Nault. Still my former teammates that I'm close with, Nick Cambio, John Holmesy,
Sure.
Joel Baroa, Doug Gemmel, guys like that. So Central was great to me. I loved every minute of it, and I think it definitely, helped me mature as a person, not just from a basketball standpoint, but obviously basketball was, a great opportunity there, and I'm really glad I went there.
Yeah, and people don't know this, but I also led Central Catholic to 3 straight fall ball championships in our fall ball league here, and no team has repeated after Central's 3-year run. So obviously you had a great career. And then we started to talk, and you started to get yourself involved with the college recruitment process. And we're going to get into some of the more other things later in terms of, proving people wrong and whatever. But so your recruitment starts, you're with BABC.
Yep.
I remember Jacksonville off it. I remember
Yep.
there was a lot of different schools that kind of showed some interest in you. But it's also a real crazy time, and where could you go? Who likes you? Who thinks you have either the skill or the physicality? Talk to me about, what would that whole college recruitment experience like for you, and how did you end up at Fairfield University?
Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting one. So, like you said, my first college scholarship was from Jacksonville University down in Florida. And it was actually after like one of our first EYBL events, BABC, where I think we were in like Boo Williams down in Virginia. And I played well. We had 3 games down there. I probably had 15 to 20 points every game. I was shooting the ball well, and I had never heard from anyone from Jacksonville. And then Monday after that tournament, I got a call from one of the assistant coaches saying, "Hey, we talked to your AU coach. We liked you. We saw you down at Boo Williams EYBL event. We want to offer you a scholarship." And that was my first Division I scholarship. And after I got that, I was kind of like, wow, like that was my end goal, was to get a Division I scholarship. And it just happened so quick, and blessed to have that opportunity. But I knew that if I kept working hard, other ones would come. And I did get recruited by a lot of teams in this area, like like I said, Fairfield, Quinnipiac, Bryant, Brown, a couple other Ivy League schools, Dartmouth, Northeastern. BC recruited me hard. So at the end of the day, I probably had about 10 to 15 Division I scholarships. And a couple schools really liked me, but I was really undersized at the time.
Sure.
You remember, I was didn't look like a Division I basketball player, but I was playing really well, and I was putting up good numbers in the EYBL events, and I was shooting the ball really well. So I was getting recruited by teams, but not a lot of high major schools were offering me. Not to say that I was set in stone on going high major. I didn't know where I was going to end up. I didn't know if I was going to end up, at a Division II school, Division I. But once I got my first Division I offer, that's kind of when I realized, like, okay, this is a reality now. This is going to happen. Recruitment's going to pick up. So it was coming down to like the end of my recruitment, and I kind of went on a few visits, and I narrowed my schools down to final 3 schools that I was looking at was George Washington, Dartmouth, and Fairfield. I took official visits on all of those. And ironically enough, like during AAU season, I got a call from the Fairfield coach saying, "Hey, we're recruiting you really hard right now. We're still looking for one more guard, but we think we're going to sign a guy in the next few days. So if you don't let us know, we're probably going to go in a different direction." So I kind of sat down with my dad and my mom and said, like, I just got a call from the coach. This is what he said. They're like, okay, well, that's, that happens. If you want to go there, you should probably, jump on the opportunity unless you're comfortable going somewhere else. And I had a great visit to George Washington. I liked Dartmouth a lot. Ivy League school was a great opportunity. So I didn't really know what I was going to do at the time. So Fairfield was kind of out of the picture for a couple weeks when I was about to, commit in that August or that end of that AAU season. And I was thinking to myself, like, what's going to happen? And I got a call out of the blue from the assistant coach at Fairfield who originally recruited me, Martin Bahar, who went on from Fairfield to go to USC. And he recruited me the hardest ever since, my sophomore year. He was on me. And he really liked me, and I had a great relationship with him. And he said, hey, we sat down as a staff. We still think we need one more guard, and we really like you. We need a shooter. And my visit to Fairfield was great. I loved the school. My biggest thing in my recruitment was I wanted to go somewhere where I was wanted, where I think I could play right away as a freshman. I didn't want to go to, whatever the best school was that recruited me on paper just to say, oh, I'm going here, and then go there and, sit on the bench for 4 years. That's not what I wanted to do. I really did want to go somewhere where I thought I could play, and I thought that was Fairfield. So once they gave me the call back to say they were still interested, I ended up committing, and, it was a great 4 years for me because I went there as a freshman and started and, ended up being the all-time leading scorer and had a great relationship with my coach and, was lucky enough to play 4 years of, Division I college basketball.
So before we get into your amazing career at Fairfield, you kind of even went light on that. We'll talk about because it was an amazing career that actually proved a lot of people wrong. As we got to the recruitment process, and I had heard it knowing you pretty well, your build wasn't as strong as, the first question I heard was, could he defend in that league? Was he physical enough? That league has strong guards, et cetera, et cetera. Is he kind of outreaching him to go into that type of school? Now, you probably had heard this stuff because I'll be honest with you, you heard that stuff a little bit at Central Catholic, and a lot of it sometimes is based in jealousy and et cetera, et cetera. Tell me a little bit about that. You had to prove the critics wrong, not on your skill set, which we're going to talk about a lot more later in terms of shooting, but just the physical makeup of you going that. What was that like for you? Was it tough? Was it emotional?
Definitely. I mean, I was definitely a late bloomer. I didn't look like a Division I basketball player. I was probably, my senior year of high school, I was probably 6 feet, 6'1" at the most. Very skinny, very lanky. He wasn't super quick, athletic, couldn't jump really. But I always had a knack for the game, I think. And that's something that I think my, college coaches saw in me. And, like I said, I was a late bloomer, so I had to put some time into the weight room, especially when I got to college. But definitely in terms of, people having doubts, but I feel like a lot of guys go through that. I mean, you look at George Niang. I mean, would you think anyone would see that guy being, an NBA body when he was coming out of high school or when he was even in college? But if you find someone that believes in you and, they know you can play basketball, I think that's the biggest thing. But, every time I step on the court, I'm still probably one of the least athletic guys out there. But, because of my IQ and I know how to play the game, it kind of makes up for it. But obviously, yeah, when I was coming out of high school, a lot of people were like, oh, there's no way he can play Division I basketball. He doesn't have the body. But I never really paid too much attention into it because I knew how good I was. Like, I had a lot of confidence in myself. And, my senior year at Central, when I was Gatorade Player of the Year and Mr. Basketball, I was putting up the numbers. So that kind of backed it up. And, I did well in AAU. So, like, I was always holding my own. It was never like I was getting these opportunities for whatever reason and, I wasn't producing. So that never really crossed my mind in terms of like, wow, do I belong at this Division I level? I always knew deep down that I did, but, from outside looking in, I could see why other people had doubt because, like we said earlier, there's that big eye test thing that, some guys don't pass and some guys do. But at the end of the day, if you can play basketball, you can play basketball.
Yeah, and from my vantage point, you always seem like you handled it real well. But I didn't live with you, so tell me, over at the Nelson household, did it get you down when people were questioning whether you could do stuff, or did that motivate you more?
I'm a super, super competitive guy, so it definitely motivated me. But I've always kind of, especially in high school, I was always a little like quiet, introverted, and stuff like that. But like I said, I was very confident, so it did weigh on me a little bit, but I thought of it as more of like, a chip on your shoulder than more to a like, wow, like, people don't believe in me. I was never really worried about what people said. I was such a competitor that, my mentality was I'm just going to prove everyone wrong, and that's kind of what I put that chip on my shoulder and did.
Absolutely. Now let's get into the Fairfield career. Obviously, you had a phenomenal career. Fairfield's all-time leading scorer on the All-Decade team, the All-2000 team, considered one of the greatest players to ever play for Fairfield. You came in, like you said, you started at first, but it was kind of up and down. The team struggled a little bit in your early years, if I recollect correctly. Tell me a little bit about your 4 years. I mean, you got to play in Cameron Indoor Center. Actually, Coach K had a plan on how he was going to defend you, and, you got some great experience. Talk about that 4-year experience down in Connecticut.
Yeah, so when I arrived on campus at Fairfield, like I said, the main reason I went there is because I thought I could play as a freshman right away. And obviously, at the college level, there's no favors. You're going to have to earn every time you step on the court. You're going to have to earn it. And, you could play 20 minutes one game, you could get a DNP the next. Like, that's just college basketball. Things are always changing. But when I got to Fairfield, it's a funny story. Our first game was against Central Connecticut in like the Connecticut Classic. So it was all the Division I Connecticut schools, UConn, Yale, Fairfield, Hartford, Central Connecticut, and I think one more, if I remember correctly. We had a tournament, and I had played really well preseason. I was shooting the ball well. I was, I thought I was going to be in the lineup. I didn't think I was going to start, but I thought I'd be in the lineup. And we ended up playing Central Connecticut, and we had won by like 5 or 6. They weren't very good, and we found a way to win. But I didn't play, and I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like I can't believe I didn't play, like what was going on. And I talked to my assistant coach at the time, who I had a really good relationship with, and he said, Coach just doesn't trust you defensively right now. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like I'm shooting the ball well, I'm playing well. I think I'm playing better than, the senior that was starting over me. But I understood, like, he was going to get, the benefit of the doubt. But going into that next week of practice and playing really well, our next game was a couple days later. We played at Duke, and that was the team that won the national championship with Tyus Jones and all them. And I had gotten in like late in the first half and scored a couple buckets and probably played like 12 minutes, had 5 points, and that was when I got my feet wet in college basketball. And then we came home and we had a game, and I had a great week of practice. I was playing well. I was much better defensively. That was my biggest thing, was can I keep guys in front of me defensively? Like, am I going to be a liability out there on the court? And my coach saw that, I needed to work on that. So I really got better at it that week in practice. I focused on defense. And then The next game we had a home game. I think we played like Sam Houston State, like a random game, non-conference, beginning of the year, and I subbed in with maybe 5 minutes left in the first half. We were down. We my freshman year we were not good. We were 7-24. Like, we couldn't shoot. We had a bunch of transfers and guys that really weren't doing well enough to win games in that conference. And it's a great conference, the MAC. So I came in with like 5 minutes left, and I hit like 3 threes in a row to end the first half. Started the second half. We won the game, and I finished with like 16 points or something like that. So I was like, all right, like, now I'm comfortable. Next game, I didn't even know before the game started. My coach was like writing on the whiteboard, and he was like, you're starting tonight. And that was one of our next games. Like 2 days later, I started and had like 26 points and was like 8 for 11 from the field and had like a great game. And then ever since then, I started and played probably the second most minutes on the team behind the senior captain. And then from there, it was just smooth sailing. Had a really good freshman year, averaged like almost 12 points. Started every other game. Yeah, and then just took off from there.
Yeah, and each year you got better and stronger, and physically. And I watched a number of your games, and again, I'd be a liar if I said that I was one of those people like, oh, he can defend in that. I mean, I questioned it. I said, just knowing that league and those guards, I said, and obviously I would root for you any day of the week, but I was like, that could be a question. What I saw from you was a drive to get better defensively, and a lot of that drive came about getting physically bigger and stronger, which I think, you late bloomer, that's an understatement, right?
Yeah.
If people saw you now compared to when they saw you when you left the field, you're a physically different person. And that's the same I always say about George, right? I mean, and he's my son, but, when George left Iowa State, it was not a great looking body. And, obviously as you see him play for the Jazz now, the body is much better than it's ever been. So you continued to have in the confidence and the trust, and then you became, everybody on campus was, Ty's the guy that's going to, help us win games or whatever. And, I saw you wind down your season. One of my favorite memories will be you and Sidney Johnson embracing after your last game. Obviously, talk to me a little bit about your relationship with your coach over the years.
Yeah, so we have a great relationship still to this day. He played at Princeton. He coached at Princeton, and then he coached at Georgetown with John Thompson. So he had a great coaching background, and he was really hard on me because I think he knew right away, like after my freshman year, when he saw the year I had, he knew that I could be a really good player in this league, and I could do some special things. So he was really hard on me, and like I said, I was a captain as a sophomore, and my sophomore year I had a lot of ups and downs. I remember we started the season my sophomore year, and in the first few games I was playing bad. Like, I was shooting like 28% from three. I wasn't shooting the ball well. And I remember I went in and had a meeting with him, and he said, listen, like, if you want to take the next step, you're going to have to – your teams know who you are now. You're not just going to be able to stand in the corner now and get open threes and pump fake and take one dribble and get open shots. Teams are going to take it away from you. You're going to have to be able to put the ball on the floor. You're going to have to get better. And, he really challenged me to get better every day we were in the gym, and he was really hard on me. And I think I've – through my life, through my dad being really hard on me when I was younger, and then in high school having Rick Nault, who was a tough-minded coach and expected a lot and was really hard on me, and then Leo, he expects his players to really play well and really play hard, and he's not afraid to tell you if you're not doing that. And then going to college, it was the same thing. So I think I like that when people challenge me, especially in terms of my coaches and stuff like that. And like I said, I'm really competitive, so I got a lot better, and I ended up finishing my sophomore year. We had a great year. We won almost 20 games that year. I finished averaging like 18 points a game. I was, second team all conference, the only sophomore to do that. Had a great year. We went on to play in the NIT, I believe. We played, I think it was Columbia. But yeah, I had a great year, and then ever since there, my relationship with my coach just kept growing. And junior year was the same thing. I was, first team all conference, could have been, player of the year, and had a really, really great year. We didn't win as many games, but, personally I did really well, and my coaches, again, expected a lot from me. And then senior year was, I was the guy that had the target on my back. Everyone in the league knew who I was. I was a leading scorer from the year before, stuff like that. But my college coach was, was great to me because he gave me the freedom to, do what I want. As a basketball player, if you can play with freedom at any level, your coach trusts you to, take pretty much give you the green light to take any shot. you play as a different player. And I think I really, really benefited from that, where I could pretty much go out there and play my game. And as long as I was playing hard and, playing the team basketball, I think, he gave me the freedom to be able to, develop my game and have the career I did.
Right. So before we get into your post-Fairfield career, I want to talk to you about, so I think of all the kids that I've been around basketball, and as you know, I've been around thousands of kids basketball-wise, I honestly believe you and George are the two highest basketball IQ kids I have ever been around. It's phenomenal. It's a skill that I don't think people give enough credit for, and you both have excelled with that. But besides that, you have a legit skill, an elite skill. Your father and I talk about this on a regular basis. We go to high school games together, and
Yep.
I think we shake our heads every day when I look at shooting percentages and shooting form and blah blah blah. And and then I go to AAU games where guys scream on the sidelines, "Go get yours! Go get yours!" Where they're trying to barrel through to get to the rack or whatever. And the reality is that's all well and good at one point, but you got to be able to shoot the ball. Talk to me a little bit about your elite skill set of being a shooter. How does that happen? What's your advice to young kids about shooting in general? Because my opinion always has been, if you can shoot the ball, they got to play you.
100%. And that's, I've always been a shooter since I was younger. Having my dad as, my dad and as a coach, shooting was what I did. It was my skill set, like you said. So I've always had a great shot, and I've used my shot in my career to, really develop the other aspects of my game, whether that be, putting the ball on the floor, getting to mid-ranges, using pick and rolls, because I was really more of a two-guard throughout high school and then going into college. But as my career went on, I kind of was more of a playmaker, and because I could shoot the ball so well, defenses were so, focused on me that I used that to my advantage to draw fouls, to get to the free throw line, to make plays for other guys. But in terms of shooting, it's always been a confidence thing for me. I think that's the biggest thing. I think there's no really right or wrong way of shooting mechanics. There's a lot of people that say, oh, you got to do this, and if you want to make shots. I think it's just confidence, honestly, and I've always been a confident kid and a confident player, and I've put the reps in. I've gotten a lot of shots up over the years, and I think that's paid off. But the number one thing is I personally think is just confidence. If you have the confidence to think that every shot's going in compared to, you don't know what's going to happen when the ball leaves your hand, I think that's just a different game.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that up front when you used to work out with us at BST. You'd be in the gym, and whether it's a shooting drill or when we went 5-on-5, I mean, the fact of the matter is you thought every ball was going to go in. And quite frankly, it went in most of the time. But that confidence that you talk about is I don't think a lot of kids have. I mean, the reality is I don't think kids put the time in like you did. Let's be honest. You taking 200 shots a day was a small amount. I'm sure there were days you took 1,000 shots. There was days that you worked. And again, I could see your father probably at Citadel or at House, working even on the mechanics. So obviously, in my opinion, that elite skill set then takes you after Fairfield in terms of, wanting to get to the league. And obviously, like my man George's, your goal was to get to the league. You started to go through a number of what I would call the NBA pre-draft workouts. I know a lot of teams had you in. Talk to us a little about that experience where you had to start over again, proving yourself.
Yeah.
You had just become Fairfield's all-time leading scorer. Everybody in the Merrimack Valley knows how great you are. But now the rest of the world has to see you if you want to get paid. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so once I finished up Fairfield and I knew that, there was an opportunity to me play professional basketball, whether it would be here in the G League / NBA or whether it be overseas. The big thing coming out of, as a senior is there's a thing called the Portsmouth Invitational, which is, I believe, the top 40 seniors in the class get invited to a combine showcase. You go there, play 2-3 games in front of, international scouts. Every NBA team is there, head coaches. And I had gotten invited to it, and that was huge for me because I think, I was one of those guys coming from a mid-major school that not a lot of people knew about, that I had to go prove that I could play against, all these high major guys. And, everyone else that was there was a high major player, maybe besides one or two kids that was from another mid-major, but I was the only guy from my conference to be invited to that. And I went there, and I played really, really well. I was fortunate to get on a good team with some good players. And I played well. I think the first game there I had like 18 points. The second game had like 15. And then the third game, I ended up hitting a game-winning shot at the end of the buzzer. So, like I said, I played in front of scouts from all over the world. I played really, really well, and that kind of opened things up for me where it was like now teams had seen me live. They knew my style. They knew how I was going to play, and I ended up getting, 6 NBA draft workouts with the Celtics, Lakers, Wizards, a couple other teams, and, it was a great experience for me to be able to go in and, play against other guys and, kind of make a name for myself. And I ended up getting invited to go play Summer League with the Minnesota Timberwolves from there. That was a great experience. And then after that, I kind of sat down with my agent and we talked and we said, what do you want to do? Do you want to, do the G League route, see if, you can get signed by an NBA team, go to training camp with them, and then, you may never know, maybe you make the team, maybe you don't, and you get, allocated to their G League team, or do you don't want to sign somewhere overseas? And, I think I had some really great offers to go play European basketball because that style really fits me, shooting, spreading the floor. Sure. But I wanted to do the G League route first because you never know what could happen. You could go, someone could, look at Duncan Robinson, small kid, went to Michigan, didn't have a huge name for himself, but Miami fell in love with him. They gave him the opportunity, and he ran with it, and,
right.
Look at him now. And no one would have thought that. And, the same thing with George, even though he was drafted. But,
sure.
It's all about, I think, everyone at that level of pro basketball, like everyone in the G League, I honestly think can play in the NBA, given the opportunity and the right situation. Like that is, the talent in that league is ridiculous. Like that is NBA talent. But it's all about, getting an opportunity to prove yourself and having a team, really like you and give you the chance, like I said. So, yeah, I decided to go the G League route, and, that's where I've been the last year and a half.
So these last year and a half, you've been grinding it in the G League, and for people who don't know, it's not NBA salaries. You got to grind at the traveling and things like that. You were with the Swarm, and then prior to pre-pandemic, you had actually kind of moved on from there. Tell me, just real quick, like what's it like with the grind with the G League where you are trying to prove yourself?
Yeah, so it's I think it's way more of a mental grind than it is a physical. Obviously you got to work hard physically, like in anything you do, especially professional basketball. But the mental grind of the G League, like you said, it's you're not living that NBA luxury life. You're not traveling, on private planes. You're not staying in 5-star hotels. You're not getting meals. You're not getting the big salary. But you're playing professional basketball at a level you're getting taken care of, and it's a grind mentally because anything can change day to day in terms of those rosters. Like for the people that aren't familiar with like the G League, how it works is guys get sent up and down from NBA teams. So you could really honestly have a different roster, a different starting five sure. every night. There's a lot of trades that go on. Guys move in and out, get signed by teams. So, there was games where beginning of my career in Greensboro where I was, 6-man and started a couple games and was playing a lot, and then for whatever reason, the Hornets had sent guys down that were guards, Graham from Hornets and Dwayne Bacon came down, and there were two, a point guard and a wing, so that kind of took away my minutes. So my first year, that mentally that affected me a lot because I was I deserve to be playing because when I got my shot at the beginning of the year, I was playing well, I was making shots, I was doing things. It wasn't like I was laying an egg when I was going out there, but the mental grind of this is a business. These guys are, draft picks from the Hornets. They're going to come down and take 30 shots a game, and you're going to sit on the bench because that's just the way it is.
Right.
So the mental grind of that really took a toll on me. But, going into my second year, I kind of knew that. But it's definitely frustrating. But it's professional basketball. You're there to do a job. It's not it's not going to be fair for everyone. But it's definitely a grind and something that I love to do.
So then we get hit with this global pandemic. COVID-19 hits it. It kind of screws up everybody's plans, right? So for you, it's kind of put basketball on hold a little bit as, obviously the NBA's back in the bubble format. But in terms of the G League being canceled at the rest of the year, you've now taken on a discussion of maybe taking your talents overseas. We talked a little bit on offline. So what does the next chapter look like for you basketball-wise?
Yeah, so it's definitely been a summer of a lot of uncertainty because of the pandemic. The G League season would, originally start up in, middle of October. So about next month, when the G League would start, normally would go back into, practices and get ready for November games. But with the pandemic and, usually the G League starts a little bit after the NBA season because how it works is the guys that get cut from the, the final rosters of the NBA teams get sent down to the G League. So everything's up in the air. They haven't announced when the season's going to start. And then obviously in terms of European professional basketball, a lot of those leagues are, struggling because of the pandemic.
Sure.
And there's a lot of countries right now that aren't taking American guys because of the pandemic. So like we talked a little bit, off mic, is teams over there that, would sign, 4 Americans to a team this year because of whether it be financial reasons or because of COVID. Now maybe they're signing 1 or 2. So it's just that much harder, and a lot of leagues are getting pushed back. Like they would be starting right about now would be when they were starting games, but I think the only country right now that's actually playing games with fans is like Poland, which is not a very high level of European basketball. It's still a good level, but the countries like Germany, Spain, France, Italy, those countries are kind of on hold right now because they're trying to figure out when they can have fans back, because that's how they make their money over there, is through the fans. They don't have the the crazy TV deals like the NBA and stuff like that, but everything's kind of on hold. But I've been working with my agent to talk to some teams over there, and hopefully something comes through soon. And I think that's probably where I'll end up, is somewhere in Europe playing basketball this year compared to the G League. But honestly, you never know in this world right now.
Yeah. So what's your mindset as you head over to, you're still got some unfinished business the way I read it with you. What are you hoping by, if you were to get over and play in Germany or Spain or whatever, what would you be hoping in terms of your long-term aspect with basketball? Is this what maybe gets you back over to the States, or is it more like give you a great experience of playing overseas?
Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, I'm at the point in my life right now where I've put a year and a half of professional basketball post college, where I'm healthy. I love the game. As long as I can get paid to play basketball, I don't see a reason why to stop. And I'm competitive. I love it. And at the end of the day, the end goal is the NBA. And everyone's path is different. You never know. I mean, you look at a guy like Brad Wanamaker on the Celtics, who came out of Pitt, played like 8 to 10 years over in Europe, and then got signed as a 28-year-old rookie for the Celtics. So, and then Matt Thomas, another guy,
my guy Matt.
Yeah, another guy that played with George at Iowa State, who came out of college, went to Spain, had an unbelievable first year in Spain, and then signed a 3-4 year deal with Toronto after that. So there's different ways to make it to the league. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen. Obviously, that's my goal, but you can make a lot of money playing professional basketball in Europe, and that's something that I'm hoping to do. And whether that be, like I said, in Europe, or staying here and playing in the G League again, but I think I do definitely have a lot of basketball left in me.
Definitely. And you mentioned it earlier, so I go back to this whole skill set, and I've watched Matt Thomas play up close. Obviously, my trips out to Iowa State, and him being one of George's best friends. I've seen Matt. Duncan's actually been to this gym many times shooting, and his story is amazing. And your shooting's in that same category. And it's almost about chances, right? So Matt had a terrific year over in Spain, like you said, and he gets a great deal with a team that actually could use a guy like him, right? And he hasn't had the major production in this series with the Celtics, but I know Matt can shoot.
Yep.
And then Duncan, to me, it's one of the most impressive stories I have ever witnessed in my entire life, and he's just legit, and I remember him as the kid from New Hampshire, the kid who went to Governors, to Phillips Exeter, played for the Middlesex Magic and Mike Crotty, and the rest is history. So I'm just hoping you get that chance to show, and maybe you do get back and get that group with that. So let me talk about a couple other things. I've been pressured to kind of ask you about this here, but one of your best friends, my guy Max Burt, who's excelling in his own career. He's in the New York Yankees system, and I'm hoping some days he gets to wear the pinstripe there. One of your best friends, and he also not a bad little basketball player, although baseball was his thing. I've been asked to, what were those wars like, playing one-on-one or just playing anything with Max Burt? What was all that like?
Yeah, that was funny. We've been, through our dads, we've built a relationship ever since like 6th grade, just playing travel basketball against each other, baseball, I mean, you name it. So we had a great relationship, and we were really competitive when we were in middle school and stuff like that, whether it be playing one-on-one in the front yard or, tackle football in the backyard. Obviously, like you've seen with Mike and George when they were younger, just playing every sport and just being super competitive with each other. But yeah, me and Max are, best friends, have a great relationship. He took the baseball route, went to Northeastern and played high school at St. John's Prep, and, got drafted by the Yankees. But, we relate on a lot of levels because, he's in that same minor league grind in baseball. You know, he's not making a lot of money. He's grinding it out every day for an opportunity. You know, people doubted him the same way people doubted me. So, like I said, we relate in a lot of ways, and, you know, I'm hoping, you know, something good happens for him in baseball and he gets a shot. So
yeah, he's a terrific kid, and I would not bet against him. He could be on that infield in New York pretty soon. I did see that video on Twitter yesterday where one of you commented about your one-on-ones. It was actually pretty hysterical. I could actually visualize you guys pushing and shoving and yelling at each other. And you're right. It reminds me of the years that George and Michael in my backyard just kind of did stuff every day. All right, let's take this to the basketball career eventually will end at some point, whether it's age or whatever. What's the next chapter look like for Ty Nelson?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've thought about it a little bit, but at the same time, I'm still at the point where I'm 100% in on basketball right now. So, you know, I try not to think about it too much, but I think just, you know, naturally as a person, you know, you always are thinking about your future and what comes next. But you know, there's a lot of different things that I could do. I've thought about getting into coaching. I'm not like one of those guys where it's like, oh, I'm definitely getting into coaching when my playing days are over. I really don't know. You know, I'm fascinated by a lot of different things. You know, I studied business at Fairfield, so I could see myself, you know, kind of working in the corporate world in some form, whether that be down the road or in whatever, you know, situation that is. But like I said, right now I'm 100% basketball. You know, signing a contract and whether it be playing the G League or overseas, and you know, going from there. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, Ty, I think, you know, this is your number one thing. Try to ride this basketball thing as much as you can. And I'm sure you'll be successful in whatever you do. You come from a line of teachers, right? Your father's a retired teacher. Your mother's a teacher. Your sister's doing an amazing job from what I'm hearing over in Tewksbury. She's a teacher. I wouldn't pass seeing you in a classroom and coaching. I somehow do see coaching in the future with you. You got a great temperament. You're a real good teacher of the game yourself with that IQ, and I'm sure whatever you do, you'll be real successful. So I want to give you the final word. And the final word goes on what my focus was between, you know, proving people wrong. You know, those kids that may not pass the eye candy test right now. And I see those kids every single day, you know, in the Merrimack Valley where people are like, oh, he's too fat or he's too slow or he's not athletic. Along with, so it's kind of like a two-part question. I want you to talk a little bit about that not passing the eye candy test one more time. Give a little advice to the kids. But also, I want to focus on your elite skill set. And what message would you give to kids about that elite skill set of shooting?
Yeah, so in terms of the first question, kind of, you know, being not passing the eye test of a professional basketball player or you know, even some people saying at the Division I level. But like I said, I've always been super, super competitive. And, you know, no matter what you do in life as a young kid, I think if you really have a goal and you really want to achieve something, the only way to do that is to just put your head down and work and, you know, not worry about what other people say. At the end of the day, you know, anyone else's opinion of you, whether it be good or bad, doesn't really mean anything. I mean, I've had a lot of people in my life think very, very highly of me, and then I've had people that, you know, really doubted me. So I just use both as motivation. I think that no matter what you do in life, if you work hard and, you know, you put the work in and you're a good person, at the end of the day, I think good things happen to good people. So that's the best advice I could give on that.
Nice.
And then in terms of you know, basketball, having an elite skill set, you know, that's been my knack. You know, that's kind of why I've, you know, been lucky enough to play professional basketball and Division I basketball, is because I've always been known as a shooter. And I think that's the most important skill set. I mean, you look at NBA basketball today, what's the most valued thing on the court is shooting, the way the game is played. And I think that's not changing in years to come. So for all the young kids out there, you know, that are, you know, want to play basketball at the highest level possible, I'd say, you know, don't get caught up in the, you know, the mixtapes or the flashiness. Just be able to put the ball in the basket and make shots and, you know, be a good teammate, work hard. And I think if you develop, like you kind of say, an elite skill set in anything you do, I think that can, you know, help propel you forward.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is a youth-centered podcast. Most of our listeners are usually affiliated somewhat with the youth center and all the topics we do. We're going to actually be sharing this to our, you know, the famous Fennis Dembo 87 Twitter site. When we announced this yesterday that we were going to be doing this, I got a ton of people, liking it in the basketball world. And Mitch Wanagaro, one of your coaches at
Yes.
Fairfield, he liked it because obviously he wants it. And I don't know if Mitch probably doesn't remember me, but my first experience was taking George to Siena when Mitch was the head coach at Siena. And we had a great visit up at Siena, unofficial visit when George was like a sophomore.
Yes.
And Mitch was a terrific guy, and his coaching staff was great, showing us around or whatever. And it's interesting, comes full circle. He ends up becoming a major part of your coaching staff, and I know you were really close. Morning breakfast workouts, I think, if I remember correctly. So we'll make sure Mitch gets this too, so he can listen to one of his favorite players all time. But I want to thank you for coming in, Ty. This was great. This is something I want to share with everybody. I want my youngins to really take a look at this, because you are a role model and a mentor to the kids in our area. At BST, we have a Tyler Nelson drill, which is your uncanny knack for shot faking and then slide dribble to an open spot to knock stuff down. And obviously what I think of it. We love you here and wish you nothing but the best of luck. And let's continue to prove these people wrong.
Yes, definitely. I'm happy to be here. Thanks to Rick for giving me this opportunity to come and kind of tell my story and talk hoops and life. The youth center is a great place, and I think kids should take advantage of this and this opportunity. I was here when I wasn't even from North Andover, but I've spent some time in the youth center when I was younger. So again, just thanks for having me, and hope everyone's doing well and staying safe.
All right, thanks, Ty. And as we finish every podcast, we always say too much passion is never enough passion.